Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of VGU Talks. I'm VX Protocols from VideoGamesUncovered.com, and let's talk games. Today in particular, I'm going to be talking about my impressions of the Star Wars Battlefront Beta, as I was able to play it along with, by the looks of things, 9 million players. And I have to admit, that's huge. That is a massive beta for a game like this, so well done EA. Okay, so in this video I'm going to be talking about my plus points and negative points while playing through Star Wars Battlefront, and whether I would think about pre-ordering it or not. So let's begin. First off, let's cover all the good parts. It looks amazing. The aesthetic touches here are beautiful. Everything such as Hoth, Tatooine, you name it. The planets look great. I just cannot get over how aesthetically great they look. I think the only thing that doesn't look quite as good are the rebels, because I think their armor and some of their faces just don't look as good in comparison to, of course, the Stormtrooper armor, which by all means we all know what it looks like by now, but they still look amazing. On top of that, the gameplay, very enjoyable. I really enjoyed it. It reminded me of the old school Star Wars Battlefront games. Very nice, very attachable, and very easy to get into and very easy to learn, which was really nice. And of course, I think it goes without saying, the sound in this game is beautiful. Of course, with Star Wars, you don't really need a lot of different sound effects in here. It's just laser beams, explosions, the Star Wars themes that we all love, and that's about it. That's pretty much all you need to master, but they've mastered it really well. So I've got to commend the developers on that one. The game sounds, looks, and pretty much plays great. However, as much as that's what I liked about the game, there's quite a bit I didn't like. So let's get into this. Number one, and this is probably my biggest complaint that I have about the game, and it has to be with the loadout system for Star Wars Battlefront. So in case you weren't able to play the beta and you weren't able to read up on any of the information that was originally revealed upon the game's release, then you wouldn't know that DICE had decided to go forward with a loadout system this time around instead of a class-based system, which, as much as I was a bit iffy about, I was really looking forward to, because a loadout system gives you a chance to really construct a character tendant to your playstyle. That's nothing but good. However, I was very concerned because then you need variety. You need a lot of variety, quite a nice bit of a mix-up here and there, nice unlockables and all that jazz, just to make the experience of getting your perfect loadout that little bit better. And in all honesty, the loadout system in Battlefront is subpar, to an extent bad. I just didn't really enjoy it whatsoever. The fact that you have to use cards as your loadout just got me really confused, and I'm just not impressed by that. So allow me to explain what I'm talking about here. Basically, in the loadout, you have spaces to put 3 cards, and the 3 cards can represent grenades, they can represent weapons, they can represent shields, this, that, and the other, jetpacks and all that jazz, and as well as that, because they give you a special ability. And these special abilities, I think there were only 2 that were available in the beta, at least from what I was able to see. And there was Ion Shot that made your laser blasts more powerful for a short period of time, which was pretty cool, especially very handy against walkers or anything like that. That was very good. And the other one being the portable shield generator, which is very nice in concept, but the only thing you can't do with the shield generator is shoot at the same time, so it's more of a team-based orientated ability, so I can't really complain about it, but it's there. The 4th card that you can get is picked up when you're in a mission, and you can just grab it, and these can vary between different styles of grenades that are way more powerful. These can differ to portable turrets. These can also be your way of jumping into the vehicles, which I found a little bit stupid, because then you pick up one of these things that allows you to jump into a TIE fighter, for example, and then you press the button that you need in order to get into the TIE fighter, only for you to kneel down, go into an idle position of which you're actively calling the TIE Walker, which is cool. I have no complaints about that. But because you're just kneeling down in the middle of the open calling for a TIE fighter or an X-Wing or whatever it is that you're calling for, that is the perfect opportunity for any enemies out there to just run right past you and go, hey, he's summoning a vehicle, shoot him ahead, and you're dead. Before the vehicle even comes, you've lost your chance to jump into the vehicle, move along. I don't know, I think that's just a very bad system. I don't really like the loadout system. I think the use of cards is confusing. And the reason why I don't like the cards is because it reminds me a lot of Titanfall, and it works in Titanfall. Because in Titanfall they're known as burn cards, where you bring a set of 3 with you into a match and then they're one use only. So these burn cards can buff you up for 1 round until you die, and then you can use another one if you so wish. Yada yada yada. And it was a system that worked really well because you keep playing the game, you keep getting burn cards, so you're encouraged to keep using burn cards because you keep getting them back, which is great. However, in this game, having cards as your loadout just doesn't really make sense in any way, shape or form, at least in my eyes. And this is more of a complaint where it comes to the PC version. By restricting it all to cards and setting it so that the card abilities are activated through 1, 2, 3 and 4, because you're walking around with WASD, I found it really annoying to have to take my fingers off of WASD in order to trigger the 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now, this is bearing in mind I could have taken it off my mouse and used my numpad, for example, or if I had a mouse with a 12 button setup or close to it, I could probably use the 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers on the side of my mouse instead. But if you don't have that luxury and you're stuck with the keyboard on its own and not tending to use the keypad, it can be a little bit annoying and a little bit cumbersome. So I don't think it's that well optimized for keyboard. I think it's more optimized towards controllers, which a lot of people do have nowadays. I do get that. And I think it's also optimized for first person mode. Because I did try out third person, and although third person was really nice, it was great to see, it was flawed. And I didn't quite like it. I didn't like how I had to open up the options menu to switch between first person and third person, to then jump back into the game, wait until I die, and then my choice is rectified, which I found a little bit cumbersome. But on top of that, the third person mode genuinely doesn't feel as good as first person. And this is coming from a guy that played it in both first and third person in the original 2 back in the day. And the reason why it doesn't feel good is because you don't really have much control over the third person camera whatsoever. You can't snap it from one side to the other like you can do in a game such as, I don't know, Phantom Pain, so that you're able to better optimize and see where your opponents are on the field depending on where your location is, and also be able to use cover to your full advantage without leaving yourself wide in the open so you're not shooting against a rock. Instead, the camera is fixed on your left so that you're constantly looking at your right, and this can really hurt you in some areas of the game, especially in some game modes where you're trying to hide behind cover and shoot in third person mode, but as you're trying to shoot in third person, you're shooting the rock that's very much in your face when it shouldn't be, instead of shooting at your opponent. That can get really, really, really annoying. There's also a complaint that I have involving the big mission that they had in the beta, which was of course the Hoth mission, where the rebels have to take out the giant AT-ATs, whilst the Empire simply has to defend the AT-ATs and make sure that the rebels aren't able to call down any Y-wings that are specifically made to bombard the living crap out of the AT-ATs and drop their shields so that everyone can just go ballistic at them. And the problem I have with this mission is very simple. The Empire, perfect. I think their spawn locations, the objectives that they have to do, absolutely spot on. No complaint with those whatsoever. My complaint is specifically with the rebels. The rebel spawn locations seem to be utterly terrible and not well optimized for a map of that size. They need to be reworked, and I think they need to be reworked closer towards the rebel base, rather than having them scattered all over the place, spawning and then immediately being crushed by an AT-AT, or just being annihilated by a complete horde of Imperial troops that just happen to be walking through there. It's just very not well done, which is puzzling because the spawn locations in the other game mode were pretty top notch and very accurate. So I don't know whether it's because of a mass amount of players, but I think that just needs a bit of a rework before I really enjoy that game mode again. To summarize and to come to a conclusion about all of this as well, I'd just like to say that as much as I wanted to enjoy the Star Wars Battlefront Beta, as much as I'm a massive fan of both Star Wars, the Battlefront series, and I'm a massive fan of what DICE are able to do with games such as Battlefield and all the games that they have made in the past, this is just lackluster. I don't think it's the great, amazing title that we were promised. I don't think this is the greatest Battlefront, yet alone the best FPS / third-person shooter we will ever have in this generation. It's just meh on a scale of good to bad. And I think a lot of care and attention that were given to the original two just isn't as apparent in this one. Don't get me wrong, I want to love this game. There are some really great things about this game indeed, but there are some fundamental things that I just can't get behind. It may just be a very personal thing, but quite frankly, I don't know what to think about Star Wars Battlefront. I'm not convinced. After playing the beta, I'm not considering putting down a pre-order. I'm definitely not considering putting anything down for the season pass, because in case if you guys don't know, it's £50 for a season pass. Yay! I've given you my 2 cents on Star Wars Battlefront. I'm not too convinced. I just think it's okay. I just think it's an alright FPS, but by all means, these are my opinions, and I want to hear your opinions in that comment section below. Did you also find any plus points or negative points that I didn't bring up that you found out about? Let me know, leave a comment down below, and I will see you guys for another edition of VGU Talks.